Cheers, everybody, and welcome to episode 49 of the Variables Podcast. We are streaming every Friday. I don't know. I feel like I haven't done this in a while, even though I did it last week, but we're going to get this right. Okay, so we're streaming everywhere every Friday night, 11 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, Twitch, and X, and actually on Rosemary's Oasis channel tonight. Make sure you catch us there, too. Of course, after the show on Spotify and wherever you get your podcasts. We are your hosts, Frigoroli and Superior Buds. Pedro will be joining us later today, and we got a very special guest with us tonight. It's Rosemary's Oasis. You might recognize the faces. You might be confused by the title, but I guarantee you'll be surprised by the content. And I'm going to try my best to just call you Rosemary's Oasis all night and not something else. But cheers, welcome to the show again. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. How about you?
Hello. Cheers, guys.
Doing well.
Cheers,
honestly, it's been a long day. I did not get a nap in today, but I'm here and I'm ready for it. I had a 6 o'clock coffee, so we're still rocking and rolling.
I just drank coffee until 6 o'clock. So, and then no disco naps here. And for Girly, I would be tongue-tied as well. In fact, I am a little bit. For following up T-Dog from last week's show, shout out T-Dog the artist. Excellent artist.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun. It was a good discussion.
Community member. Also, thank you very much for inviting us on. I feel very welcome. This is now a third time being on the show, and I almost feel like a regular here. So thank you very much, guys. It's a pleasure to be back, to be on, to be here as part of the team of Rosemary's Oasis, where we are here.
I want you to tell us a little bit about Rosemary's Oasis, but I just got to check in real quick with you, Superior Buds. Did your dog destroy a stuffed animal? Is that what's behind you?
He pulled a piece of cardboard out and has been annihilating it behind me into little pieces. Yes.
I just noticed it looked like maybe there's a stuffed animal that got turned inside out or something. Everyone had their dogs up on their screens earlier before the show, and just waiting for something to get.
It's not snowing in the Superior North yet.
Not yet.
Not quite. We're close, but
not inside it.
We can keep the plastic off of our low tunnels for the time.
We can't keep a toy stuffed in this house, so no. Yeah, Ruben likes the squeaker. He'll take the squeaker out and just toss it around like a toy.
You know what? I used to compare my pit bull to a what is it? Not a great white shark. It's the orca. The orcas are there's been reports of orcas surgically removing the livers of great white sharks, and I think, I don't know, whatever ocean it is, somewhere out there in the scary depths of the sea. And that's what I think of when I see my pit bull removing the squeaker from a stuffed toy. It's very precise and very intentional.
Yeah, that's kind of what we have going on. We have a whole bunch of shark parts laying around.
Just less swimming.
Ace is not surgical at all. He shreds everything.
Yeah.
So he
pulled my head off. It wasn't there. I pulled the left leg off. It wasn't there either.
He has pulled the big elephant that tears up. So the wife has put clothes on it. So the little boy's clothes are on it. And then he's been pulling them off. So now we're like, let's sew the clothes together so he can't get the clothes off because he's still tearing holes in it.
Yeah.
No squeaker.
We've had to really, make sure there's nothing around that he really wants to grab that bad, because everything he wants, he knows where it is. And like, as soon as we're not looking, he's going for it.
Like paper towels or anything. Like he sees it. He might get it from me. I'm very much like I don't know if it's a
observational.
Yeah, and just doing that. But yeah, noticing random things.
We have a 4-year-old that likes to see what will the puppy chew on and hand him things. So
there's
a dangerous game. It's a lot
of times it ends up being his hand.
He's finally gotten past the point of picking up everything, but there's a couple things that he knows that we like to
take from him.
Yeah, and that would be paper towels, socks. Socks is a game. He's learned to drop it. Drop it is actually a word he's familiar with now, and he's gotten a lot better in the last couple weeks. For those out of context, Ruben is our 10 and a half month old golden retriever Irish setter mix puppy. He will be a year old in the beginning of August.
No.
In the beginning of November. We just finished. I need a glass of water. I'm gonna go get one of those here in a second. Oh, look at that! Oh, wow.
That's my huge water cup I had to get, so I drink enough water.
Yeah, parched mouth turns the word November into August really quick.
Oh.
It's funny how long the puppy stage lasts. They're no longer the puppy size, but they still act very puppy.
Oh, so
he got so big so fast. It's hard to control. And I'm like protective of myself, right? Because I have a baby bump now, and he doesn't have a clue in the world and is a jumper.
He likes to play bump the baby bump.
Oh, that's yeah. Ace
Well,
is that way too. That would be scary.
Yeah.
He's about ripped my arm off the past couple of nights. You go out for potty at night and you wrap the leash, and he'll see a rabbit ears or something in the. I mean, we have rabbits everywhere now because we planted so much clover. So.
Did it to yourself?
Yeah, he's hard. He's pretty hard on the leash. We started using an electric collar, and it's the only thing that's really helped. Like the beep noise, he knows that means no. Luckily, like but he'll still break the rules because he's like a little.
Is it a GPS one or like the buried wire or?
No, it's like
remote.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so it beeps, it vibrates, and then it does shock.
We have to be active with them. It's an interactive one-on-one.
That might actually work for us, though. That's why I'm wondering, because the GPS ones won't work for us because we have too much tree cover.
Helene, sorry. Yeah.
It made such a difference. Like overnight, he kind of started realizing like just the vibrate will get his attention away for a second. And we have had to shock him a couple times, and you always feel bad, but sometimes you got to go like a step higher than his level, which we can't do without like what feels like actually hurting him. So I think the shock is nice occasionally.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we had one. He scared a chicken out of the chicken run the other day and bolted, and that chicken was gone through the woods, and he followed. Chicken finally came back. He finally came back, but we need something. Break his attention.
I mean, speaking of chickens, we are all chicken owners here. And chicken
tenders.
Yeah, chicken tenders. We're all fucking, oh my God. I've never heard that before. And that's my new favorite phrase. We're chicken tenders. Okay. I didn't know that was a thing. I'm excited about that.
A 3-piece, a 6-piece.
How about a 30-piece?
Yeah, our Rolly's got the big box.
Our crave case over here was dealing with the hawk. It's hunting season, guys, and I had my 2 roosters literally fighting off a red-tailed hawk today under my oak tree, next to my tire swing, and beside my 4-wheeler. I mean, it was a wild thing to come out to and panic and grab the shotgun and run as fast as I can and scream and yell. By the time, of course, I get outside the door, the thing's gone and the chickens are under the, they're gone too. But I mean, as far as I know, I didn't get to count them before they went to roost tonight. But I mean, they were hiding everywhere, and it's a wild time of the year right now because this is every fall for us. We have red-tailed hawks coming through, just trying to pick our chickens off. We watched them dive down into our neighbors, which wow. I don't know if you saw the story today, but they've got turkeys and stuff. So I don't think a hawk is going to take out a turkey, but I suppose it could if it really wanted to.
You need crows.
Well, dude, here's the thing, and so I've noticed that crows are almost give warning. When they're around, they give warning when the hawks are about.
They chase the hawks out away.
I don't know how successful they are about that.
Oh,
but...
we have a family of crows that live in our tree, and when hawks are around, they chase the the hawks right out of the neighborhood. And then 2 or 3 of them come out and they just bolt at them, and
they're here.
They're gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Smaller hawks. Yeah. I don't know about red tail.
We don't have red tails. We got these little.
Oh,
well, our crows up here are as big as freaking hawks.
Yeah, they're huge. Ruben started barking out the front because there was something out there, and I go and look, and there's a hawk on one of the cars out front, just chilling. We're like, oh man, go check the chickens, but we think it was just chicken size, so maybe it was a little too small. But Ruben's our predator right now for the chickens.
There you go. And honestly, a dog's not a bad. Well, as long as it's big enough. If I put my Yorkie Chihuahua out there sometimes, and I'm like, is this just baiting this fucking hawk right now? Like this poor little guy on a run. He's not. He's screwed. He can't do anything. But no, they're not going to attack him. They kind of know what they're looking for. They're honestly very smart freaking raptors. But
eagle,
I hate them.
Bald eagle come down and grab the little guy.
Right. Well, bald eagles are they're scavengers, man. They're more like turkey vultures in that they're just looking for roadkill and dead stuff that they can. Yeah,
we get them. They patrol the shoreline here. We have one that has a nest up, and they've been there 3 years or so, and they patrol every day, and it's wild watching them. They're huge.
They're so big, bro. I mean, you think of red-tailed hawks big, but yeah, those things are 2-3 times the size of those, something like that.
The damn shadow will go over the house sometimes. And you're like, what the fuck? Is that an airplane?
Yeah, right.
Holy crap.
We're stealth bombers over.
Every time I see a bald eagle, I'm like shocking. I'm not ever expecting it down here where there's no water, but I've seen some in the craziest, weird places for sure.
Yeah, I've seen them down along I-94, kind of down your way, just like hanging out on the side up. And it's like, what are you doing? And it's got to be, of course, some dead animal somewhere that it found. But
there is water, I guess.
We're surrounded by lakes down here. We've got we've got all of like the urban lakes, Belleville Lake and Ford Lake. Those are like factory lakes. And,
I hate Ford Lake, by the way. It's the worst lake to kayak through. Don't ever kayak through Ford Lake. Ford Lake sucks.
Those lakes are very much polluted lakes. There's do not eat the fish advisories going on.
That's a whole different story.
North of those areas all the time, and it's all upstream from those lakes. You get the Huron River do not eat the fish advisories often from. There's been like 3 different spills from. I think it's like a paint supplier company, Tri-Bar. It's up in Wixom, and they've had a few spills there. 2017.
A few from the same company?
A few from the same company. Yeah, one recently was last year. As recently as last year, there was one do not eat the fish advisory from one of their spills. I believe it was spring of last year. Maybe it was 2022 by now. A couple years might have gone by. But anyway, yeah, those are, just simply local. And then, when you think, well, let's go off into the a little bit backcountry where it's maybe a little less populated, even in those areas, like in the Asable River watershed and in the let's see here. Yeah, what area do you have?
Don't eat the fish, but the water's fine.
Yeah. The Asable River watershed gets these do not eat fish advisories in the Oscoda area pretty often. There's some military bases in the area where they've had some they had like a fire extinguisher explosion or something like that, where a whole bunch of fire retardant materials went into the water system up there in the Asable River watershed and really kind of made some.
Was it even an explosion, or was it just the decades of using it seeping into it?
I don't know.
I think it's the latter, man. From what I recall, I don't remember reading anything about any sort of like explosion or any sort of incident.
Well, not that it was like an incident, but it was something. Something happened where it spilled in. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, from what I recall, it's the chemicals they used in the fire retardant at the base and for the training center. They used it for so many decades and for so long without any sort of remediation in terms of the cleanup that it just seeped into the ground and into the groundwater, and of course contaminating it for probably decades to come, because I don't know how you can possibly remediate it after it's gone past, I don't know, first couple feet of ground, like
yeah, they're doing a big remediation project down here by the Quantamon River, and it's a mess. You dig pretty deep for that crap. I don't remember.
Like how you said down here, like anyone else is north of you.
You're up
There's
here.
a couple of Canadians north of me. Right?
Yeah, well, I'm also north of Canada, technically.
It's this large Canadian crowd.
Yeah.
Right.
Here's to all of our friends in the north, or friends in the south, I guess.
To the north. All right, so Rosemary's Oasis. Tell us. I mean, we've skimmed the surface on so much about having dogs, about having chickens, about being pregnant. What is it you guys are doing over there?
Living, man. trying to live, trying to stay alive. We are. In a nutshell, I guess, inspired by permaculture. We enjoy the lifestyle. We strive to live sustainably. Try to live self-sustainably. We reach towards the education and aspirations of self-sustainabilities. I really enjoy, at least, looking up, creating, and theorizing new systems to be sustainable. Big focus on herbalism. I see we're on a show with cannabis leaves. I think cannabis is definitely in the realm of herbalism. So I think that we all have a common ground right there. And cannabis, for me at least, is one of the reasons that I got into growing other plants, peppers and tomatoes to start, annuals like that. And over the
gateway
time,
drug to gardening.
It was the gateway drug to gardening. It was the gateway drug to herbalism. It all began as a curiosity into cannabis, and as a young adult. As a young adult, my curiosity into cannabis led its way into growing all kinds of plants. And yeah, we're growing dogs, we're growing chickens, and now we are growing our first baby, my first baby, Becca's first baby.
Congratulations.
And,
that's so awesome.
Yeah, seriously.
Thanks
guys. But we have
so much fun.
We're growing a baby. We have our
it's definitely
wait, what media is it? Is it cocoa? Is it soil?
Oh, this would be all natural. This would be all
organic.
No-till organic.
Yeah, no-till.
We're not using Jack's 321 or anything like that.
We're going no heavy metals. We're going the no glyphosate route here. We are as much as possible. No PFAS, no forever chemicals, no swimming in the Osable River. We have gone swimming a few times this summer. We have, and actually we were very fortunate to swim in a little private, like, spring fed lake in the Irish. Not private, it's public, but it's still a spring fed lake at the top. The highest point in our watershed region, about 1,100 feet or so, and it all kind of flows downhill from there. So it was a very, very clean spring fed pond that we got a really beautiful chance to spend a weekend in.
Can I really quickly ask you, what is the ground? It doesn't make sense, but like the bottom of that lake, is it like a clay? Is it mud? Is it sand? Is it?
It would be a beautiful mixture of all of it. It would be basalt. I don't know the correct pronunciation of that, but it's basically it is glacier basin sedimentary debris from glaciers would be.
Okay.
And actually a major makeup of southern Michigan into northern Ohio does have a lot of that, but the Irish Hills region, you're looking at almost a sand dune of it. That almost creates a rolling hills region where pockets have been carved out to allow for natural watershed, natural springs, and beautiful rivers to have been carved over the last, I don't know, 11,000 years or so.
The reason I asked just real quickly is because I don't know how many spring fed lakes I've swam in. Most of them that I have, I probably had no idea. There's been a couple that I was informed of before I went in them, and I remember one of them, which was I think up near like West Branch, so it's certainly away from the Irish Hills, which we've talked about on our podcast before. But it was spring fed and it was a clay base, and so this clay base was very red, and it almost made the water, like it almost, how like we have why am I drawing a blank on the purple that makes cannabis purple? What's the word for it? Anthos, yes, those things. It was like those for clay seeping into the water, and it almost tinted the water red,
Iron oxide, or
yeah, I mean maybe, but it seemed like it was the clay, but it is probably iron oxide in the clay, right? Like that's what was probably coloring it.
No, I mean it's all mucky. It's all mucky, thick. I mean, yeah, it's clay, but it's also
everything else too.
What is it? It's silt.
Okay. Yeah.
And really, a large chunk of that of our rock structure here is sand. It's a big sand dune, but it's composed of earth minerals like you wouldn't believe, because of the grinding that the glaciers did into the crust of the earth and uprooted it, so to speak, and did a deep tillage,
Looking at Lake Superior sand under a microscope is pretty cool.
Oh my gosh, can you pull up one of those photos, dude?
Yeah, let me find it.
Crystals, and
it's if you were to show this to a person and not explain it to them that it was 400x under microscope or whatever it is, and explain to them that that's what they're walking on in sand, they would not believe you. It looks like it's normal size, first of all, and second of all, you just don't think things that small can have that level of like shape to it and just perfection. And it makes you think of that fractal idea, right, of just everything. Oh, it can get even so much better than this, though.
Yeah, it's like when you walk along the shore and the shore is covered in the rocks, and you think about it, like that's just big versions of the sand when you really get down to it.
And the rocks are everything of I mean, you can find so much stuff. Right, anything from topaz, aquamarine to, citrine, and
like these.
A Petoskey stone, coral, ancient coral, 400 million year old. I found a coral in the middle of the forest
last night. Look up diatomaceous earth under a microscope as well.
Oh, cool.
DE is the same way. It's very fractal, very unique shapes, I guess.
It's like snowflakes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like snowflakes.
One of those really cool things. So the wife ran into a ground bee hive yesterday with the dog while training. Ooh. And so she got stung about 11 times. And the dog got stung. And so we started looking up how to take care of them, and DE is one of the good ones. So
it can be so useful for so much.
It really can. Use it for the chicken bath, right?
You look how sharp it can be. Imagine if you were small trying to climb through that.
Right, it's like just a good box of gears from like a scrap metal yard.
So many Legos.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's a perfect way to describe.
It's like a ball pit of Legos.
Oh God!
Hop on in.
It's like when we looked at biochar electron microscope. The same thing. It's just that carbon structure.
Just build upon it. All right, so you guys described how cannabis got you into peppers. I'll be honest, I grew peppers first, and it was more or less a test run to see if I could even handle that to grow cannabis.
And I keep a plant alive.
Yeah, indoors in a closet and that kind of thing. And I got some fruit on it. I've got some habaneros, and then I just overheated the crap out of it. So I learned something along the way, I guess. But, first of all, how many varieties or varietals of plants do you think you are growing right now or have grown in the past? And what brings you to those seeds or those clones or to those plants that you are planting? Like, why are you growing the plants you are? Well, first, tell me how many you got in your backyard. Let's pull it up.
I think that number is just getting larger every year, and I don't know if there's
Yeah, that's difficult to quantify. There's things out there that just kind of come and go. It's a natural system for the most part.
Well, I'm going to play this real quick. This is a quick 55-second video. Check it out on Rosemary's Oasis on YouTube.
You should mute it, by the way, because
oh no, I'm definitely not going to mute it because this is my favorite part. And maybe you guys might want to mute your sound because maybe Ruben will come barking at himself in the background there. But yeah, if you guys have your volume loud, turn it down because you're going to have Ruben up in your ears right about now.
This is every time we go to the garden, he's mad.
Look at that sunset. We've had some sunsets lately.
Yeah, the sunsets have been amazing.
Nope.
Ace hears it.
Let's see. There's an empty bag and a bunch of cannabis that Becca threw to the chickens today.
Nice.
From our indoor
It's
garden.
getting a little dark, so not the best lighting, and it's keeping a baby's a lot more work than I could have ever imagined. So not spending quite as much time, the nitty-gritty of it.
Don't downplay what you guys have.
So if you were to pause it right back just a smidge, actually what you're looking at right there also. Well, I guess we could talk about the varieties of plants in there. I don't know. There's about 4 or 5 varieties of plants in there right there. There's Jackby little pumpkins. Those are little orange things. The white dangly ball things. Those are spaghetti squash. We have some phallic green zucchini looking things. Those are loofah. So those will be scrubs soon. And it is a phallic squash season, by the way. So
yep,
they're naughty squash. So that's just a joke for us plant people.
We picked up some loofah seeds. We have not popped them yet, though. I'm interesting to. It'd be interesting to see you guys take it all the way through.
They're really picky and finicky.
Here's our naughty squash for the season, guys. Okay.
They're freaking growing truck nuts. I cannot unsee these truck nuts that they're growing. It's I love it.
Yeah, here's one of these little Jackby littles here. It's a little fun.
Yeah, those are awesome.
They're so cute.
Now, most people are going to grow those for maybe decorative purposes or pies, right? But you guys are doing something special with them.
Yeah.
You can also eat them. So we're going to make some baby food with all of ours this year to save for, those first meals coming up in a while, I guess, but it'll stay good.
I love it. I love it.
I would say a big ethos of our, I don't know, farm, family unit, whatever you want to call that, is like we said, is the self-sustainability portion of that. And so we do try to not just focus on foods that we can eat right away, but foods that we can preserve and foods that we can create into some sort of a value-added type of a product, something that we might go out and buy that we couldn't otherwise source. So Becca's been making lots of herbal salts and things like that out of like our garlic and onions and stuff, so that we can preserve our garlic and our onions like for years to come, and be able to use it as seasonings and not just into a single dish. So we're cheers, Pedro. Hi, cheers. Man.
He snuck in here.
So we've brought we got some pumpkins and stuff. So yeah, we're gonna try to make some baby food.
And the loofah, just so we can do our own sponges. It has to dry out. So I think that's the hardest part. It needs to dry and go yellow on the vine, ideally. So that's what I guess is hard to do in Michigan.
I want to see Red Setter eat one live. Go ahead and look at last week's Michigan Bros Grow Show where someone suggested it and he didn't even think twice. He just cracked right into it. Said it tasted like
we had it to like eat. It was the small one for eating. So those ones that were
but it tasted like, what'd you say?
It was bitter. I don't know. It was like
grass. You said grass.
It tasted like it was pretty chlorophyll. But what I was gonna show on that picture was that A-frame, the garden beds that A-frame was separating between was an original garden that I began. I believe it was so if you were to back it up just a smidge, maybe 3 seconds or so, there's this enclosed right there, right, that boxed in garden right there. Currently that's gonna start. We're gonna have our winter garden starting there. So we have some lettuce and some brassicas, kale, some broccoli, and some not broccoli, leafy greens. Sorry, leafy greens, mustards, and.
Are you gonna tunnel them and keep them through the snow then?
Yeah, if you actually back it up even further and go in front of that, right there, stop there. There's a little wooden structure there in the middle. Yeah, that little A-frame looking thing. That's a little A-frame that I have that I can put plastic over. And that originally was built to size for one of those beds inside that giant enclosed bed. If you then, I guess, go forward a little bit on there, that enclosed bed is 16 feet long by 8 feet wide, and it has about 3 4-by-8 foot beds raised inside of it. And that was the original beds that I built. Our backyard's around about a third of an acre total.
I gotta jump in here, man. I just want everyone to realize that this is a typical Metro Detroit suburban backyard. It's fenced in. They have sidewalks. They have neighbors. It's
lots of neighbors.
What they have done with this space is so flippin' impressive. And he's giving you sizes right now, like 16 by 8 and whatnot. Yeah, but everything you see looks so much bigger on the screen that it's just, this looks like it's acres to me. You know what I mean? With what you guys have done with your space is so impressive. I just want to reiterate that before people really
I hope we have enough time to get into it, but it's definitely part of the conceptual permaculture concepts that I like to follow, and not just that, but we're combining many concepts, because this farm is not just to sustain us, but we want to actually sustain community. We want to sustain the roof over our head. We want to use it as a revenue source, a business. And so we're looking at different forms of high density market farming, what sort of crops that we should be growing, that we shouldn't be growing, things like that. Obviously, in our system here, we're going more for a food forest. We're experimenting with biodiversity. We're experimenting with a lot of different varieties. Like Becca said, I mean, the number of varieties are just ever changing. For the most part, we're cannabis caregivers. So we're promoting the cannabis annual plant. You can see a big cannabis plant there. And so a big idea behind the permaculture stemmed trying to sustain those plants without any herbicides or pesticides. And over the years, permaculture came into play. The food forest came into play. I really wanted to see where resilience played. And I began growing pumpkins at the base of my cannabis. And I began growing other plants just to see, will the inevitable powdery mildew transfer, and a lot of times it didn't, and learning that they were just different
like strains or whatever.
Strains, different bacteria.
So with that, are you like I mean, it looks to me it's not like a traditional market garden. You're not like row gardening. It's more permaculture style where you're kind of mixed in and you're zoning it basically, right?
We have many different zones back there. There's actually
one that wasn't shown that's a bit further back, and that's where we've got more of the row style that used to be just a huge bed kind of all mingled together, and then last year we rowed it out a little bit more.
And there is some season extension hoops over those beds. We have some 30-inch beds with a 1-foot pathway on center, which makes a beautiful, I don't know, I'm not gonna do the math right, 72-inch bed, which is perfect for a 10-foot hoop to be bent into a 6-foot diameter. You know what I mean? Yep. And so that 6-foot diameter covers two 30-inch beds in a 1-foot pathway almost perfectly. That 10-foot conduit or PVC or whatever you want to use to create that arch is also a 10-foot length for, a standard size roll of polyfilm, which is nice. We get 10 feet wide and just roll it out 100 feet long.
Nice not having to cut that crap.
You don't have to cut it wide. Yeah. And it's 10 feet wide. Your electrical conduit is 10 feet long. It's going to match up. Arch is going to match up. So it matches up.
John Siskovich and Justin Rhodes both do a lot of these type of systems where they're very specific. It's off the shelf stuff, not a lot of cutting, not a lot of changes. It makes life so much easier. You got enough other crap to deal with.
And they make some templates for pipe bending. Johnny sells one. Bootstrap Farmer sells one. A handful of these companies sell them. I made one. Out of some plywood. I stacked some plywood. I created a radius. I knew my radius and I drew it. I knew I wanted a 6-foot diameter, so I took a 3-foot radius and I drew a 3-foot radius, and then I arched it. I cut out some plywood. I stacked it, and I created my own pipe bender for electrical conduit.
Oh, so you're doing the EM? Okay.
Yeah, EMT. Yeah, there's about 5 or 6 hoops to make up about a 20-foot length, and we have some 30-inch beds back there. That currently there's some small cannabis plants in.
I tried the PVC hoops and just wasn't a fan with the big ones, but EMT is so awesome. I just don't have a good pipe bender.
Yeah, and I mean, I have a whole bunch of B-roll and some footage for it, so I really need to just kind of put a little video together on how.
Yeah, that'd be a great video.
I've been really meaning to put it. I'm like, dude, it's simple, quick. It would probably hit. It's a pipe bender. It's super, super constructive, very useful.
DIY garden stuff is awesome.
Made out of particle board,
Yeah, that's awesome. I grew up kind of market gardening in rows, standard. Grandma had the perfect garden. I never could grow a perfect garden. So when I discovered permaculture, 15 years ago, I fell in love. Like, oh my gosh, I can have groups and just blobs. And now this year I kind of called it chaos gardening. We our hugelculture. We just threw a shitload of seeds on it. See what happens. We got zucchinis and squash and tomatoes and strawberries. Who knows? Raspberries took over because we didn't deal with them. But
that's the craziest part about having plants that you let go to full maturity and then go to seed is they just keep coming back, and then the birds bring in random flowers, and then it's
so pretty. And you still get such an abundance. And the thing I love with permaculture is the symbiosis between the plants, right? You have your ground cover, your shrub layer, your tree layer, so you have all these different layers, and then on top of that, your zones, your kitchen garden, stepping out to I forget what they call the second one now, but all the different zones.
Zone 1, zone 2, zone A, zone B.
I always remember the close one is your kitchen garden. That's all the crap that's the stuff you just want to walk out, grab, and come back.
Tomatoes and cucumbers and peppers.
There's some good maps on those things, and just like it'd be like a homestead design.
Like just what Justin has.
Yeah.
But it's great to see that you're on a third of an acre and you have a lot of abundance plugged in right there. We have a little bit more, but it's spread out. It's the same systems though.
that garden would probably be on, I'd say, a third of an acre. So maybe a tenth of an acre there. And yeah, there's a lot of neighbors. There's a neighbor on either side of us, and the backyard's wider than our neighbors behind us. So we actually have 2 backyards behind us to match up to ours. So there's 4 neighbors. There's 4 different properties that are adjacent to ours.
We got lucky because we've got a privacy fence all the way around, and then all of our neighbors have mature trees kind of all the way around.
Fruit trees.
So we've got a nice,
awesome.
Our neighbors have fruit trees. A neighbor on one side has a mulberry tree, a fruiting mulberry tree. A neighbor on another side has a couple different fruiting apple trees and lots of lilac as well. And then the neighbor behind us has some pear trees, and we get lots of wild grapes and some other stuff that kind of just creeps into our yard, pines and things like that. But lots of shade, canopy.
It helps because we've also got our chickens, and we got, we started with 6, and it kind of escalates from there. But we got 4 more this year, and 10 is probably the most we should do because we're not technically supposed to have them, and they're kind of loud. They're a little bit loud, but we love them. They're
awesome.
Cool.
We did the same things for Growley. Like our first year, we had to buy, I think, 25 from McMurray Hatchery, and then they sent 30. And then we lost 3 or something. So we had a whole bunch, but we've downsized. We're at 14 right now. So with most of them being bantams.
Yeah, we got 4 more this year, and they are they're ballsy little guys. They jump and they fly way more than the original 6 we got, and we got
because they were kept out. They were
Yeah,
left out in the rain. Those OG hens were like, peace, ladies.
we got them as adults too, and they never they just always kind of stayed in their boundary really well. We don't let them go in the full garden because they like to dig at mulch and destroy everything. But these 4 more that we got, they fly.
Oh, I have to clean up mulch off my stairs every single day that my chickens are out because they will dig that mulch right into the staircase, right into the grass. They don't give a shit.
We have a maze of mulched pathways back there, and I like to keep those pathways in order. Yeah, I go out there and I weed them, and you know what I mean. There's some things I let go. I let the strawberries go. I have an awesome relationship with what is growing in the pathways,
and they will not contribute to that awesome relationship. They will make their own pathways. They will
turn them
plants into those pathways.
They mound my pathways. They trough my pathways. So trying to keep them out of the path. So we opened up the back garden for them. One of the unshowed back corners. I was gonna throw a little timeline. That enclosed garden I built about 10 years ago. That 8 by 16 foot garden. That was about 10 years ago, and there was no gates on it. There was no A-frame or nothing, but there were 2 of those beds next to each other in a yard, a big 1/3 of an acre yard. When I moved into this house, it was nothing but grass and weeds in a yard, and I'm in a full lawn of grass. And so I put 2 big 8 by 16 foot raised beds in the middle of my backyard, in the back 1/3 of my backyard, and just left them there. No fencing, nothing. Tried growing some plants there. I created a raised bed. At the time I was doing all of my like I said, I was coming from like trying to learn how to grow cannabis in pots indoors, and that was my education on growing anything. So I tried to create this giant grow pot bed. So I perlite, peat moss, compost, topsoil, and I mixed it all together, and I created these huge raised beds, massive raised beds, 8 feet by 16 feet. I spent like $300 on, and this was 10 years ago. That was a lot of topsoil and peat moss, and I mixed it all in there. A whole giant bag of, I think I used a couple giant bags of perlite. So that's in those beds. Those beds have that base in there.
Can't really see the perlite.
You can't. And what I also did that first year was I dug out the sod because, like I said, it was a grass backyard. And so I went in there, and for each of those beds, I dug out sod and hauled the sod into a corner of my yard and kind of just made a compost pile out of it for 10 years or so until I just cleaned it out last year, right? So that sod sat there. I've never since dug out sod. And the entire garden space, the only time that I ever dug out any sod. I know a lot of people who start gardens this way, and gardens in a lot of times when I talk to people about starting a garden, they talk about how labor intensive gardening can be, and it is, or how labor intensive that it is. And I say it can be, and I'd say that entire area that was shown is, maybe a portion of our garden. None of that was dug into. None of that was tilled. None of that was used. We didn't use any machinery back there. No lawnmowers, nothing. That was my lawn. That was our lawn. We let the grass grow. We took a broad fork back there just to kind of loosen up the soil a little bit and raise it and eliminate some compaction that had been taking place over the years of it being a lawn. But it had obtained organic matter. I was mulching the grass. I wasn't giving the grass to the city. I just had the side shoot going. Every time I cut the grass, and then the grass clippings would just mulch down into it. So long grass, cover it with some cardboard. I would throw some, some store-bought compost, some worm castings, some store-bought compost. Probably unnecessary because of the amount of clay that we have here in our topsoil, but I would throw down like some azomite or something. And then I would mow the grass and take all my grass clippings and throw that on top of the cardboard. And that was my garden bed started right there. And every time I would cut the grass, I would throw it on top, and then fall would come around and I'd mow over all of the leaves. And rather than sending all the leaves in a bag and shipping them off to the city, I would go collect a couple neighbors' bags of leaves, and
it's so crazy, dude. When
on top of the cardboard.
I did not grow up like this, like putting bags of leaves in paper bags that were the size of large adults at the end of my driveway or anything like that. Like I just didn't grow up with that. And so when I was introduced to that, I was kind of just like, oh, like, okay, this is just how this part of the town does it or whatever. But now that I'm like, have for a decade now, I've been responsible for growing plants that are like, a part of a business or whatever. Like it blows my mind that people just give that away. You know what I mean? That they're just depleting everything in their soil and then just giving all of that away to the city or to whomever whatever it is. And it's, we had a compost pile growing up. I don't know. It's weird. It's just weird to me that's you're just what do we
past few years, we just take them all now and put them in the outdoor chicken run. And by the next year, they've shredded them. They're gone. And scoop out some of the best freaking dirt ever.
Well, I grew up, and shout out to my dad, Daddy Red. He's not. It's a little bit late for him to be in this show. He likes to stop in on
Daddy Red
we're on, and I know he'll be watching this sooner or later. And when I was growing up, we had the plastic bags. You guys remember the plastic bags with like, the witch bag or like the pumpkin bag, and you'd fill those things up. And I don't know what happened with those. I don't know if the city came and took them as garbage or if the city
had a leaf day
compost, or there was a leaf day.
Yep.
And eventually we would just throw all the leaves into the street, and the city would come by with the big giant
vacuum cleaner.
That's what I remember in the city is the giant vacuum.
But there was a point where my dad just started taking all the grass clippings and stuff and dumping them in the back corner of the yard. And I'm like, what are you doing, Dad? Are you just dumping them back there? And he's like, they're just going to break down and make a big, nice compost pile. And I never thought of anything of it. And I really, he's into landscape gardening and stuff like that, and I don't know if he knew it at the time of what it would. This area back there has been composted into for a couple decades now, and it's just absolutely beautiful soil back there. It's rich, it's thick, it's lush, it's got a couple of trees growing in it and a lot of weeds as well, but still They're trying to utilize it now, like 20 years later. But he used to have me take all the leaves from the yard in a tarp, and I would go take all of our tree trimmings. My neighbors had a access point to some woods behind their yard. We were in subdivision. We talked about this on a show a long time ago, like along the Rouge River in Metro Detroit. There's a stream of woods. It's a band of woods that goes right through Metro Detroit. It's total suburbia, concrete jungle with a band of woods. And so my neighbor's backyard had woods. And so we would sneak off, and that's where we would comp. That was my first experience with a giant compost pile in the middle of suburbia as a kid. Was dumping leaves and watching that thing break down, even as like a young kid, and watching the animals come in and out of it. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I gotta interrupt. Pedro, don't be scared. That was me. I thought I was responding to you, and somehow it's you responding to you.
No, I'm over here like, what the fuck? I'm about to sign off and just delete my YouTube account.
I can see it in your face. It's like, I got hacked. What is happening? Oh shit. Yeah, no, I don't know what happened. But yeah,
my mom used to do the same thing with the grass clippings. She had what we called the back 40 behind the house, So you take the grass clippings and you throw them out there. Yep. But after like 10 years, you start going, you dig into it, and it's like that white mold, the grass mold, or the leaf pile. You get the leaf mold, right?
Yeah.
And now looking back, I'm like, gosh, now I actually know how to use that shit.
Right.
It's amazing. But she knew what she was doing. I just didn't know what she was doing.
Yeah, it was really cool because behind that one neighbor's house was like 3 neighbors worth of lawn clippings. And I mean everything. Bushes, everything was just going back there in a giant pile and just breaking
community compost.
Yep. But I was the the grunt that had to pile everything up onto tarps and drag it all back there. So I've got that in me now. I've got that instilled in my work ethic, is how to drag a tarp. You got to be able to drag and haul a good tarp full of debris.
Says the guy that also wheelbarrowed 40 yards of mulch through his property. Tell us that story.
We moved 40 at least 40 yards of mulch last spring. I definitely said we. It was Becca and I, and we had a couple chip drops, and we went and talked to a couple different arborists that we saw in our neighborhood.
God, you guys are lucky. I wish we could get chip drop here.
Yeah,
right?
That's so awesome.
It's the benefit of being in a 1,000-home subdivision, is you hear a wood chipper going in the summertime, in the winter, and all the time you hear wood chippers. So just go circle the neighborhood, find that wood chipper, talk to the arborist.
We got such a big pile. It was so many, and it somehow disappeared in the garden. Like it got used
fertilizer.
Yeah, it's almost like it's all gone, man. I mean, it's wild how much it's just been decayed and turned into.
And we need more.
Yeah.
I have a very vivid memory of how much 40 yards is, because that's how much soil we moved this year. And I'm just like, I don't ever want to do that by hand again. It was too much.
I'm glad we did it when we did it, because my energy level is so low. I would be
you're going to have the benefits from that for years to come too. Yeah. All you put in the sweat equity up front. That's the beauty of the permaculture systems. And so besides chickens, what else have you incorporated? Like, so are you also growing for the chickens, or just scraps?
We do. Sunflowers this year mostly have been for them. We kind of planted them late, so they, in the past we grew 14-foot sunflowers, and this year it's a bit sad to look at. They're much smaller.
They're still pretty. I saw your photos of them. They're awesome. I've never been very successful growing sunflowers, so we've tried.
Hot peppers are really good for the chickens. I don't mind if a couple of those fall to the wayside, because they'll go to the chickens, and they'll help out with parasites, diseases, things like that.
And the neighbor's pear tree dropped pears all year, and the
I'm going to ask which fruit tree is by your chicken coop there.
There's apples. The apples didn't do great this year, but in the past they fall right there
We're planning on planting a mulberry tree, but inside the chicken run because we know how messy they are. So this way, at least, and ours are penned up now. They have a huge outdoor run plus an indoor run plus their coop. But
you guys get a lot of wild grapes up there? Do you have any just random?
That was one of the plants that we purchased this year to repopulate on the shoreline.
Yeah,
is the Great Lakes wild grape because it's an endangered plant.
Okay.
And so we found someone that was making cuttings and sending them out. And so unfortunately they didn't get in the ground, but we'll get some in there. Our shoreline's still a mess. We got the upper bluff taken care of. The shoreline's next year.
I don't know if ours is the wild endangered version, but we have them at both of our properties, like in a mass quantity. The ones we were trying to just do some yard cleanup the other day, we had a handful of, I don't know, fruit sets, clusters of fruits, and they were so delicious. They were super tiny and filled with seeds, but they were absolutely delicious. They had a little bit tart, but they were very sweet and super red. I mean, they were just staining everything.
Really? I didn't realize we could grow as many different varieties of grapes as we can in Michigan until I came across the sand grape or whatever.
Michigan has 3 amazing wine regions. I believe its major wine region is up in Traverse City.
Right.
You have another wine region along the southern west coast. I think near like the what is it, South Haven, Grand Haven, somewhere in that region. There's a really nice wine region, and then inland in the Irish Hills region, and then I'm sure there's a few more from there. But yeah, Irish Hills has that's kind of why I sourced out property in that region and why I want to do more growing in that region specifically. It's not far from where we are here, but in elevation, it's increased a little bit. It's also different soil structure. It has a different water supply structure out there. And there's a lot of natural qualities, grapes being one of those. It's actually the Raisin River watershed. So it was coined the Raisin River because when the French settlers settled there, they noticed the wide array of grapes growing in the banks of the river, and so they coined it the Raisin River. River they Raisin or something like that. Literally, I think that's what it was. Not to be funny, but I think that's what it was. And then in that accent, in the accent, yeah, definitely.
Yep.
And then and walnuts too. Black walnut is another natural resource in that region. What was brought in, and since we're in the last half hour, I really wanted to talk about like different types of like co-planting. Like when we talk about permaculture, you talk about farming annuals. You're planting and you're removing stuff. You're removing your crops. In a lot of cases, like when we grow squash and stuff like that, the whole plant dies off. You succumb to powdery mildew. You need to do something with that space, or you just need to have stuff in the area to still have a biodiverse of, to be able to house life, things like that. We like the concept of edges and hedges. I don't know if we want to get into the 12 concepts of permaculture, but one of the concepts of permaculture, I think it's in the back half, like 10 or 11, concept 11, one of the principle 11 is using the edges, valuing margins and things like that. Hedgerows. Mm-hmm. So areas that aren't under constant cultivation, would you have an area that's, utilized for perennials? Hedgerows, maybe the space between two gardens. Fence line makes a great hedgerow because the fence can act as a trellis for some species of plants that might need support. Pond hedges. Yeah. The grapes being exactly one of those, and a perennial, a trellis needing plant. One especially that wild grape with its bleeding ability to stain everything is loaded with anthocyanins. There's that word for you, Frigoli.
Thank you.
The ability to hold antioxidants. I mean, if you want to coin, there's a hot word, I guess, superfood. You know what I mean? But that's probably like one of those mineral enriched foods is those wild grapes. But yeah, that's one of the principles is to utilize edges in production. So hedgerows bring in biodiversity, and we like to put things like daisies, lavender, thyme as maybe if we're talking about different horizons of a canopy. Daisies are kind of tall. Thyme is kind of short. It might act as like a nice little understory.
We did a whole lot of creeping thyme this year.
Creeping thyme is a ground.
Now we've got a ground cover level of thyme, and it's a mosquito
strawberries. I like strawberries, and another. It's not really one of the principles of permaculture, but one of the concepts that I like to use just in design of food forest design or in polycultures. Everything has to have a dual purpose, at least a dual purpose, multi-purpose. If it is something like a sunflower, is it a pretty plant? Yeah, it's pretty. I can look at it. Well, there's one purpose. I'm going to use beauty as a purpose on some things, to be honest. I just like beautiful things. But a sunflower is going to attract pollinators, it's going to attract birds. It's going to attract, in some case, varmint and squirrels, which may be a good, maybe a bad thing. It might attract crows for growlies, so you could have the crows to get rid of the hawks or something like that. But it's also going to be a supporting structure, maybe to grow grapes on, or beans, peas, or anything. Maybe peas specifically to put nitrogen or something. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about in hedgerows, and those being perennial base, is the idea of a guild. And for Broly, if you go back to my video there and you show maybe around the little apple tree, just go backwards maybe 2-3 seconds, right back a little bit. All right, remember that apple tree is, it's got the white band on it there.
Sorry, I'm muted. The one I was just looking at, right?
You're pretty much right there. Yeah, right there is perfect, actually. The tree is surrounded by many things, actually. To the far left of the tree, there's like onions and peppers, and those are annuals. If you get closer to the tree, we're surrounding the tree by some right there specifically. There's valerian. Now, valerian is going to get really tall next year. It's probably going to get 5 or 6 feet tall, and it's going to get tall and flower really early in the season. It's going to bring pollinators in. The yellow flowers there, that is calendula. And Pedro, just real quick to stop my ear bleeding, what is that? Because that's super slimy and delicious looking.
Just some fresh pressed rosin over here I'm playing with. Figured I'd take a fresh press stab for shits and giggles, I guess.
Hell, he's playing with it, all right.
Dab time, everybody.
It's always dab time for me over here.
Fuck yeah.
The bottom right on that tree would be lavender, and then there's like yarrow, and so there's a bunch of perennials and some annuals that'll self-seed into annual perennial. Around the ground, if you go straight down to the ground, there is, and for Broly, what do you have? Oh, that's waxy. Ooh, I can smell that from here, actually.
It's so garlicky.
Smell those fruity skunk there. You might have muted yourself.
You don't have to stop on my accord. I'll just.
Oh no, it's okay. It's all right. I like to narrate what's going on. I guess it's.
I love it.
Listening audio.
We haven't been doing dabs, so it's sad.
I'm sorry.
I'm
so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, it's all right. It's a little, yeah. So what you've got there is a bunch of stuff that'll, obviously the apple trees, we want that to come back every year. So that's going to be a perennial.
That was a bad apple year.
Yeah.
Hold on. Okay. I got to stop you there because I actually looked this up like 15 minutes ago. I don't know if apples got brought up or maybe I just was thinking about my apple trees and I wanted to talk to you guys about apples. But we've noticed that we have what I feel like are biennial apples. And I think that's because we don't necessarily treat or care for
That's what my
specifically our trees.
So I've noticed that my neighbor's pear tree only fruits
with our pear trees.
year, and then my other neighbor's apple tree has only been fruiting good, very well. So they'll produce fruit every year, but it's full fruit every other year.
Is it a single tree, or is there?
There's a couple.
Oh, we have dozens of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
I think it's also a little weather dependent, because all the farmers at the farmers market this year were talking about how there was a late frost or something happened, and their apple trees did not produce at all this year.
We tried covering ours up before those frosts, because what happened was the flowers popped out in like late February, early March. And it was the earliest spring we've ever seen that I can remember, and I'm only 40 years old, so pretty short distance of time. I'm almost now. Sorry, I'm not yet 40, but I'll be there. But yeah, we had a early flower set, and then we had to wrap up with burlap for like the last half of like April and May, because it got cold and freezing again. So we don't know if the burlap was enough, but we didn't get any fruits. But these trees are nursery trees from a nursery down the road. I would definitely like to get that topic on sourcing. Sourcing is huge.
Yeah, definitely. But I just, before we get off it, I just want to mention, from my understanding and my little bit of reading that I did, though, it's almost dependent on, it's more of like a genetic thing where it's dependent on how much fruit it gives in any individual year. So if I'm not treating or caring, so to speak, for the trees and maybe pruning it every year to get a certain amount of fruit, it might just give everything it can give, in year, let's call it 2023. And then in 2024, it's like, well, no, I gave everything I got last year. I need to chill this year, And I think that's literally what our trees are doing, because nothing is fruiting this year, dude.
We don't have any apples on my neighbor's tree either. And last year they were completely full.
There's like 4 apples.
But you know what? I got a family member who moved into a house last year, and they didn't even know they had apple trees until this year, because they have so many apples they don't know what to do with.
It's not a bad problem. See, that's where it's a tough tangent, but I mean, with a little bit of craftiness, I mean, man, you can make vinegar, you can make cider, you can make a lot of stuff,
bro. Well, here's what's blowing my mind about it is I grew up making apple cider every single year. On the same road as me. My grandfather had a bunch of apple trees, and we made a tradition out of every fall, the entire side of the family getting together, all the cousins, all the aunts and uncles, my grandparents, all got together and crushed up some apples and pressed them out all day long and processed it and made, I mean, I don't know how many gallons, dozens probably, at least 2 dozen gallons of apple cider out of these handful of apple trees, on my grandfather's property. And it was all manually pressed. It was all, there's sometimes there was yellow jackets in it. Sometimes there wasn't, you know what I mean? But they're very resourceful. But what I remember is him having enough apples to do this every single year. I don't remember there being this being an every other year thing, or, and so I'm just like, I remember him treating these trees, and
these trees surrounded by us don't get pruned at all. They're just wild
and huge.
Yeah, I pruned ours this winter, and then I haven't pruned them this summer. I should have did a summer pruning, but I didn't.
Our cherry tree did get much bigger. No fruit yet. It's only their 3rd season.
I'm starting to think that it's stupid ornamental cherry. It says sweet cherry, and I'm starting to think it's stupid.
I felt the same way in the past before too, but I do think year 3 or 4 is kind of the turning point for these types of cherry trees. I also think that you might just be getting robbed by robins and you don't even know it.
Yeah. We also got hit with Japanese beetles. They really like the cherry tree a lot.
Really?
They always like decimate the whole, like all the new growth.
So I grew some of those grapes this year. I don't have to grow them. They just leave them. It's amazing what you'll have if you just don't weed your garden. You know, don't weed.
That's the best kind of fruit to have in your garden. It's stuff that just appears.
And that a lot of our yard, it looks really mismanaged and stuff. And it's actually stuff I'm not pulling out yet until fall, because there's a lot of pear trees and apple trees that are scattered throughout our yard that I'm actually gonna keep and put in containers and bonsai them and use them eventually for something.
You know? Rosemary's, here's the thing, that only looks mismanaged to someone that lives in that neighborhood that is so worried about keeping their lawn conspicuously manicured. But to someone that grows plants, it's like, oh my God, look what they've been able to do. You know, it's like there's two sides to that, and it's either you don't feed your family with plants that you could easily grow in your backyard or front yard or side yard or on top of your roof or wherever the fuck you want to, or you crush it like you guys are doing, you know, or maybe somewhere in between.
Weeds just come with the territory of having a food forest. We've got thistles like crazy, and you don't pull them right away. There's a lot of them.
My mom comes from the master gardener realm, right? And so she's done like volunteer work at like Greenfield Village, and like, for those who don't know, Greenfield Village is like a giant amusement park that takes you back to the 1800s. We
all took field trips there as fifth and sixth graders.
From Michigan, you pretty much took a field trip there. It's like this place that has like all of the old Edison plants. They have old glass blowing. It takes you back to old farms and all kinds of one-room school. We spent a day at the one-room schoolhouse in like 5th grade and got class taught there, shit like that. My parents were actually married at the chapel in Greenfield Village. So my family history actually goes in Henry Ford was one of the founders of the area. Henry Ford Museum is no.
I thought he was about to say ring bearer or some shit.
No. Henry Ford owned like Henry Ford Museum is all part of that campus.
Daddy Red's big pimping over there. Don't let him fool you.
That's just a big thing. No, I'm Daddy Red retired from Ford Motor Company. I grew up as in Ford Motor Company campus, you know what I mean? So exposed to that life, you know what I mean?
You're talking about your mom.
And my mom and what?
Being a master gardener.
My mom was a master gardener for that campus. Yeah, whatever, that campus. So she likes things to be neat, you know, she likes to see the soil and or the mulch and no weeds. And weeds to her don't have a use or a purpose, you know what I mean? Where to me, I'm saving them all and using them for biomass and for compost and soil aeration and nutrition cycling.
They work as a ground cover as well, you know.
Isn't the regardless of the philosophical difference on how you guys feel, you and your mother feel about weeds, isn't ultimately the only real difference the time at which you pick them?
You mean I let them grow and she does not?
Yeah, and she's just pulling them out when she sees them, and you're pulling them out before I assume they make seeds, right? Or have the ability to make seeds?
Sometimes I'll just go and I'll decapitate them. I'll remove their ability to, I'm
chop them at the knees. Parts. Not today, Mr. Thistle.
Yeah, it depends on where my gloves are. You know what I mean? I might just go out there with a pair of pruners and cut the flowers off on a thistle and just let the plant continue to grow flowers. You know, if I think that there's nothing else around it and I need some pollinators or something, I'll let thistles flower to the point to where they're going to make seed. And what I'll do with that stuff specifically, I will take those seeds. They're little puff balls. They're going to blow, and they're like dandelions, right? I'll put them in a bucket, and the puff balls go into a specific compost. I don't have one compost pile for everything. I have, half a dozen different compost piles. I have a compost pile for weeds, specifically bad stuff, thistles, tomatoes with Septora, whatever, other stuff with Septora, you know what I mean? Just stuff like that. A lot of stuff that goes in there is disease, seeded, and stuff that I don't want spread throughout the garden will go into one pile. Another pile is a lot of our chicken waste and manure and stuff like that I don't necessarily want going directly out onto our garden spaces because of the risk of E. coli, other bacteria and things like that being spread across the garden. So that gets composted for at least a season. Won't be used until next. So we have a compost pile that goes there, and that's just for safety. I mean, you can do the 30-day. If I'm out there turning it, I'm not turning my compost. I'm not a responsible compost person.
The chickens are, though.
To ensure that it's not in their area, though. We don't keep that compost in their area because then it's getting mixed in with fresh chicken compost.
Well, how often are you cleaning it out, though? I mean, they're
once a year.
Every day.
About once a year. No, we clean out their stuff. I mean, we go into their stuff every season, so in the wintertime and then in the summertime. So we take
what I'm saying is like they're turning it before you're even getting to it. So it's
halfway
compost.
We're also adding fresh compost to it. So then we their stuff and then we go compost it for another year.
We do the deep bedding so it stays deep in there, and I think I changed it the beginning of the summer, maybe.
Yeah, we changed it at the beginning of the summer, and then we changed it probably another year prior to that.
Yeah,
that's just the bedding inside the coop.
Just keep adding.
We've got our coop, our indoor run, and our outdoor run, and we kind of cycle between the three until everything ends up outdoor. Mm-hmm. And their outdoor run's a big hill, and it's kind of nice because they kick all the shit from the top, and it ends up at the bottom. By the time it gets to the bottom, it's like really dark soil, and
it's like a real slow tiller going through wherever they can access. Like,
we do the deep litter as well, like you guys do. You know, in the winter you need it here. The ground's fucking cold, so I mean, we'll be
a good point.
14 inches deep of straw and shavings by the time they go into snow. But you get that compost in place, and you get that extra heat from the compost, and there's a lot of extra little benefits to it. You know, it's like you said, doing something to have multiple uses. Mm-hmm. Which is why I chose deep litter as well. It does multiple things for me.
Well, the coop rarely stinks. It just all that material goes down to the bottom, and it's just settles. We have like a linoleum bottom, you know, so it doesn't just get absorbed into like.
Well, we did the same thing.
It's amazing to me that the deep litter it doesn't stink unless it gets wet. Like if you mess up and it gets wet, it's gonna stink like hell.
Right.
But otherwise, you go and you're like, this doesn't smell like I expected a fucking 5x5 box of chicken shit to smell like.
It's a little dusty.
Well, it's the same kind.
That surprised me.
They're always kicking it up.
It's the same concept as the food compost that I have next to my house. I have a 2x4 foot by 2x4, you know, wide and long, maybe 3 feet tall. And I've had this food compost sitting next to my house for, I don't know, 8 years, something like that. I've never taken compost from this thing. I've never emptied it. It is never filled. Ever filled. We dump food waste into this thing by the bucket all the time, every day. We dump dead mice in this. We put everything that's in the house in this. And I don't extract from it because it's some food scraps that might have glyphosate, you know, it's conventional food, it's whatever, it's all kinds of shit. It's stuff that we don't want to give the chickens, and I just haven't extracted from it because it always just disappeared. The way I got it set up, it just, you know,
summertime it just shrinks.
It just shrinks. And when it starts to stink and the flies are getting on there, you know what I do? I cover it with some grass clippings, and the smell and the flies, they go away. You know what I mean? It's amazing. You just layer it, just that little bit of a layer right on top, and everything just kind of the smell goes away, and it could smell funky something. And so,
and it grows plants every year. We
get tomatoes out of it all the time.
Every year.
The tomatoes.
In reality,
there's plans for adding what would be your next thing you're looking at building or animal?
Water. I need to collect water. We have some storage containers that I need to.
Last year we did a greenhouse, so that was,
and it's gorgeous. Nice job.
It was
Thanks. It's like it's a shade house. It's like it's a start house. It's on the north. It's on the south side, north facing. side of our yard, so it's in the shadow most of the time, and it's under a tree. But it's perfect for starting seeds. It's perfect for hardening off plants in the springtime. It's perfect for keeping stuff over winter, and just, honestly, it's great for a nice little extra shed and a storage place to keep all our gardening stuff, and a nice potting bench.
Spiders love it.
Yeah, it's a nice drying house. Keep herbs nice and hot and dry. It's a nice little hot house and really heat in the summertime. But in the in the wintertime, I mean, it's solid. We got roll up plastic windows. I mean, I didn't do anything too crazy. It's all mechanical. The windows open up with like beeswax actuators that are all mechanical.
Those actuators are awesome.
They're super cool. They open up, the oil expands, and they open up a little actuator. You don't need any electrical for them. It hits like 80 degrees, and the windows begin to open up.
I have this window open and another.
Yeah, it makes it super easy to use. So we have those up towards the top. We have a couple of those, and I mean, it's just passive air that comes up and out. There's holes in the bottom because I have it board and batten style, and I don't have anything sealing off the bottoms of the battens. I have it completely vented so that it can do it that way. So the board, if you don't know what board and batten is, you have two pines that are about an inch or 2 inches apart, and then you have a batten that seals them off. And then obviously there's a step of a gap there. So when you get down to your floorboard or your ceiling, you may have a gap at your face of your wall. So
it really helps with that expansion and shrinkage of the wood.
Totally does. Yeah, and I like that style. It's that cottage style,
so
Yeah. And I did it super cheap using fence pickets. I didn't use pine. I used cheap fence pickets. I didn't use cedar. I used pine fence pickets, and then we stained them.
I stained them.
Becca did a lot of staining.
Becca did a lot.
But yeah, that was a serious upgrade as far as like season extension goes. Being able to get plants out early enough. Hardening off is a difficult job in the beginning of the spring here in Michigan, man. It's hot, cold,
it wasn't quite
sunny.
big enough. Like we needed more space than that. So this year we made a little nursery area because we did a plant sale at the beginning of the season. So we started all of our seeds, and then we started like probably 10 times more than we needed, and grew those plants until they were pretty darn big and sold a lot of plants.
Where at? How'd you sell them?
We did like an online sale through our like social media, and then lots of family bought from us. And then we also went to a farmer's market. We took tomatoes and peppers and herbs and everything we had left to the local farmer's market to us here in Ypsilanti. Couple times, and got rid of most of them. We have maybe like 10 extra tomatoes left, but that's not too bad.
Not too bad.
Hundreds that we did.
Becca planted a couple hundred tomatoes, man. A few hundred tomatoes. We only planted. We didn't even plant all the varieties of tomatoes that we started. We started at like a dozen varieties. We only planted like 4 varieties of tomatoes. We have a few tomatoes still going, but mostly like some stuff that we were going to use for canning, like some paste tomatoes. We wanted San Marzanos, so we kept the San Marzanos and some gold. What were the gold ones? Little sweet gold. Sun gold tomatoes. Those were like the only tomatoes we kept, and everything else we pretty much sold and had out for a plant sale.
I was wondering if it was a survival of the fittest, or you just kind of sold what sold, or
we sold the best looking stuff and kind of kept some, we wanted the specific tomatoes for canning, that kind of thing. But then what was left, we looked at it and we're like, okay, this is what we got. Let's put them in the ground. And
so you're going to, a lot of people go, well, I can go to box store A, box store B, box store C.
Of course.
You can go get burpee plants.
If wouldn't even put them on that level. I mean,
there's a couple things. There are a couple things with those. Those plants are generally they're generally cocoa or peat, and hydroponic. So you're putting whatever chemicals that they have on their plants into your garden or system. in the past, I've always been okay with that. If you're okay with doing that, that's not an issue. But the other thing is these box stores get shipped from suppliers in other agricultural regions and zones throughout the United States. They're just shipping you plants. Sometimes the store managers are the ones ordering plants, and they're just ordering plants because they like the plants. They don't care that they can grow there properly. They don't, they're gonna, you look at the whatever, I don't know, list of tomatoes that Burpee has. They got tomato A, B, and C. Those might do well in your region until July, and then they're going to get hit with this disease, that disease. Those plants might not have any disease resistance in them at all, or they're, only to resist Roundup and heavy herbicides because they're GMO, things like that, right? So there's a huge reason to maybe source through a specialized small scale nursery, and that's something that we wanted to put forth was, we're searching out varieties that adapt, that grow well and will adapt to our environment. So we're not growing stuff that grows well in Florida. We're trying to grow stuff that has a powdery mildew resistance. We found seed banks that actually have organic seeds, non-GMO seeds, that have selections for such and such wilt resistance, such and such PM resistance, such and such disease resistance. If it's a lettuce variety that has a resistance to a specific soil pathogen,
or bolting,
bolt resistance, slow bolt this, Whereas you might just get a spinach from the box store. We'll get you a slow bolt spinach so you can grow it in July and not have to worry about it bolting in the heat, something like that.
We did a lot of research. It was a lot of just looking at 100 different tomato varieties and lettuce and everything.
And different vendors as well. And we're still trialing and error, going through different seed vendors and seeing what works the best. We started going through like Baker Creek seeds, and they have great heirlooms, and we really like Baker Creek, and M.I. Gardner seeds, and he does great stuff. And there's all these great seed, True Leaf Market, and they have good seeds, and they have pollinator packs, which is really cool. But heads up, they're not native pollinator packs if that's something you want native. But back to the hedgerows, man, and talking about non-natives, because I got off on this tangent in the guild for the trees. I like to put our perennials and our annuals somewhat close to each other so that we can have this unification of this system where the annuals eventually will die, but there's still something right next door that's giving life and housing everything. And then what I can do is, as that biomass decays and breaks down, I can feed where the annuals were with that biomass, and I can replenish with more annuals without having to worry about the annuals that I took away replenishing that system immediately. Twigs from the tree. Let's just envision that apple tree system one more time. Those twigs, when I prune it, can go down into that system. The valerian is going to decay into that system. I really like strawberries as a ground cover. Those come into the system very well. And then the yarrow, we're bringing in predatory wasps and parasitic wasps and things like that with things like yarrow and calendula. And we're bringing in those same beneficials with the lavender. And we're also able to use the valerian as a medicine. We're able to use the lavender as a medicine. We're able to use the yarrow as a medicine. All of those have high terpene values. All of those have high medicinal values for a second. But here's the thing. So we have this guild of a tree surrounded by perennials protecting the annuals. We need to feed the system somehow. So it's good to have within your guilds supporting species, and supporting species typically provide nitrogen and or other minerals to your soil. Now, a good nitrogen, you can do ground cover in clover, right, to provide nitrogen. We all know about legumes. Those are great for ground cover. Beans and peas and all that stuff for ground cover. But let's talk about a great perennial species. Typically, mimosa can be grown as a tree, and this is going to be a huge ever-bearing tree that's going to give you nitrogen in your soil. So if you plant a mimosa every, let's say, 10 feet in between, if you have an apple tree, those mimosas will feed your apple tree, hence feed the whole system there. Not native, but invasive and brought in, and what is, in my opinion, ecologically responsible to host is the autumn olive. And the autumn olive is considered very invasive, and it grows very fast and gets very large, but it grows great nitrogen nodules on the roots. And so the autumn olive is one of few, I don't want to say the word native, one of few nitrogen fixers that will grow in our region naturally, I guess, is what I have to say. Not native, but can adapt to regionally adaptive. It's not something that, you know, like zone 10 has all kinds of nitrogen fixers. We don't have a whole lot of them up here in zone 4, 5, and 6. You know what I mean? Might be able to get mimosa and a couple of those other ones to work, but for a good perennial, I hate to say it, but the autumn olive, if you can control the species, it can be used greatly for fence making, basket weave, whatever you want to use it for. They grow really fast, and the shoots, you know, you can utilize them for wattle fencing. And
it's probably how they became invasive. Somebody, you know, wanted it.
Yeah, it was used for animal feed originally. It was brought in as a high biomass plant for animal fodder and probably basket weaving and to be, but yeah, it has, I think that one of those, a couple of those in a hedgerow, if you can manage it and keep it cut down, the berries on it are quite delicious. They create these little red speckled, gilded speckle. They have these little golden flakes on these little red berries, and they're really good. They're quite tart. They make a fruit leather, if you can pull seeds. So they're known for making like a fruit leather really well.
We love our berries up here.
Yeah,
berries grow really well in our acidic soil. So
yeah, and the autumn olive is one of those that grows really well in the sandy acidic soil as well. So that's going to grow really well. I don't know. I'm throwing that one up just because
you mentioned fodder there. Have you grown any chicken fodder? Just any greens?
We give them our microgreen. Sometimes we'll give them some microgreen leftovers. I'll grow wheatgrass, and we won't eat it all. And
I did the opposite, where I actually started with fodder, and that led me to microgreens.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that's kind of why I started doing microgreens. But same, it looks like the bootstrap farmer type of trays, or like your standard. What are they? 10-20, 20-10. I always forget which.
10-20 tray.
Yeah.
10-20 tray. For microgreens, we ended up upgrading to these shallow microgreen trays, and they have a insert that's like filled with holes, and it's kind of mesh, so you can bottom water really easily. And it's not just a 10-20 tray with a few holes in it. It's like a full mesh bottom, so that, like, I mean, you get the whole.
That's the bootstrap farmer, right?
That is the bootstrap farmer. Yeah.
They have every. We also. So you guys do entire trays of greens, right?
Of a single variety of greens.
Yeah. So for us, that's too much. You know, we're not. I don't eat that much greens. So so we bought their little inserts that go into the 10-20s, and you fill out, I think it's 8 inserts. So we end up can do 8 varieties then at a time. And the same thing, that you get the bottom water.
That's awesome. We take them to a farmer's market every other week, and so that's why we're doing as much as we do. But we, you know, we'll eat quite a bit of them if we have them here. We this last week the market was a little bit slower, so we came home with more. What's
your favorite microgreen that you grow?
I like broccoli, but I like blander flavor, I would say.
I was gonna say I do kind of a spicy mix as my.
Yeah, I like arugula. I like arugula, and I've become a big fan of mustard greens over mustard condiment. You know what I mean? So I like to just, rather than putting mustard on a burger, I'll put mustard greens on a burger, things like that. So I have become a fan of putting, and I really like the mustard greens in just about anything, honestly.
I do too. It's amazing the different flavors that you can get off these little tiny things.
Dude, yeah, they're hella nutritious.
Are you feeding it all when you're growing them?
So again,
are you feeding them at all, or
we're using a splash of like an organic compost, espoma, like a little bit of an espoma. There's like they have a mushroom compost, and they have a just another just basic organic compost. So we're using just a splash of those, and
it doesn't need much, right?
I mean, no. I mean,
we're completely just water only.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously they're a little more nutritious if they have a little bit more nutrition for themselves.
You want to get them a little bit full on the cotyledon. You know, we want it like a first true leaf to be showing, and I'm hoping that they're getting a little bit of nutrition out of the soil. And then because it's so fresh, we're dumping it. Right now we're just laying it out in the back, and we're hoping they'll grow. We're just putting them in a bed, just laying them out. So I'm just taking them back there and putting them on an area where we recycle root balls. So we recycle all of our indoor root balls in an area. So it's perlite and cocoa. And that would be the area in our garden that I would consider not the no-till area and not like the organic portion of the garden. It's just kind of like root ball compost from our indoor, which is hydroponic. And then that back portion of the garden gets all of those microgreens and stuff to grow.
The root mat.
Yeah, it gets the root mat and stuff like that. But all of that,
chickens devour that shit.
Yeah, chickens eat it. I give it to the chickens. I don't like giving them too much because I don't want to waste all that precious pro mix back for compost and reuse that pro mix. I'll put it in a tote, and just when it's time to like go up pot some of those apple trees and stuff like that, I dig into there, and I reuse stuff as many times as I can.
Same.
Absolutely done.
Soil can be just tossed over and over. We have it going everywhere.
I'm not worried about. I could worry about pathogens and stuff like that. I might not get anywhere with stuff. If something dies, the idea is to have enough of an abundance that if a couple of plants die off or something's going haywire, I can scrap those and I got something else better going on elsewhere.
Exactly.
And
a good mix too.
Yeah.
And if you lose an entire crop to a disease, you generally have something spacing to stop that disease from.
And ultimately, plant health is going to eliminate all of your worries anyways. I mean, the idea is to just get everything as healthy as possible. The only way to really bring that into the key is bring biodiversity in the key. Our limiting factor is always going to be the size of our farm. Their square footage is pretty much always going to be a limiting factor. So, what kind of stuff can we cram in,
Right.
Density.
We went on a tangent this past, I don't know, week or so, and we're looking at rabbits now. Not to breed, not for meat, simply for fertilizer.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're little shit factories.
And I'm in factories, dude. We have like 2 bunnies just wild that they're officially pets that are stuck in our backyard because our backyard's kind of enclosed, but they got in, they can't get out.
Well, they got enough food. They ain't going nowhere.
And they're pooping I'm finding bunny poop every time I go weed the garden. There's a little pile of bunny poop. And
it's not too hot for your garden. It can sit right there. That's the best part about bunny shit. And I saw a really cool system, I guess a couple days ago, where he has a angled tray right under the cage. Shit comes out, rolls in, falls into a tote for him.
That's
and then
awesome.
once a week he empties it, and then he steeps it for 2 days in a tea, uses that right on the plants. Then he takes the mass that he has left, the solids, dumps that directly on a garden that he's building.
You make me think of you make me think of wanting to get more into those systems.
Meat rabbits.
Well, creating like the food systems for the chickens and stuff, like black soldier fly larvae.
Yes. Can we make hey, hold on. Rosemary's Oasis. I'd like to invite you guys over to Homestead and Beyond to have a larvae bucket contest. No, not even contest. Why am I making a competition?
Are we eating larvae?
No. A larvae bucket making weekend.
Oh, Rogan gonna be there?
Craft affair. We're gonna make buckets to capture flies and get free. Because, dude, How crazy is it that
the
what
maggot
is it, like
bucket?
a 3 or 4 pound bag of dried out maggots is like $45? It's crazy, dude.
Yeah, there's all kinds of them wanting to grow.
No one wants those except unless they're for your.
This was a big fly year, dude. The black flies were in this year. They would have came in this year. We had black flies this year.
We always
let's capture them and their babies and their young and feed them to our chickens for delicious little treats.
I would be afraid to call more to my house. Like, it's already so bad.
Bro. We have chickens running around shitting everywhere. There are so many flies that I would like to capture them in one place. I don't want them all over. I want them in one place. So if I can direct them to a trap to feed our chickens, then let's do it, because they are everywhere. It's the chicken shit, man. It's like flies on shit, right? It's how it works.
Have you seen the box fan going into like a cloth bag?
No, but I've seen inline fans inside of grow rooms going against grow room walls in which there was a caked on layer of fungus gnats. So no, it's
basically the same concept, except you're using it you draw in the flies in front of it with the color, what is it, the yellow, and then the smell of the damn sticky traps, right? You just put a giant sticky trap in front, and then the fan sucks them in before they get the sticky trap, and then they can't pull themselves out of the bag, and you just have a bag full of dead flies.
And you have an endless supply of an oiled up gear mechanism in your fan. So
it's only a fire hazard if it's inside, right?
What if you just laid like yellow spandex over the backside of a fan, and then the flies would just fly into the filter?
Then you'd have to be twerking 24/7.
Well, I don't mean spandex pants, but spandex material.
Like this hair tie.
This is a lot of the stuff that I love about homesteading. Is you see some of the weirdest contraptions and the strangest stuff, but some of those things work so well.
We have not had a chance this year to do any, what is it? I don't want to just say builds, but like
upgrades.
Yeah, upgrades.
We've got some things to do.
Like major, like what projects, like
hold on. You guys had to slow down after the last 2 years, though. I mean, come on. Like, at the pace you guys were going at, you'd be taking over the neighbor's yard, kicking down fences. This is my pumpkin patch. We
were like, hey, should we go have a talk with our neighbor and talk about tarping off her backyard and like
I knew it.
Back there.
We can't really go, closer to the house any, because Ruben needs some type of yard to run in. So we're thinking we can't keep bringing it this way. Maybe a couple of like raised beds, but I don't really think we should.
They're gonna literally vertical garden their suburban backyard. I cannot wait. It's gonna be amazing.
Trellising is the next option. I mean, really,
vertical growing is nice.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are doing it with the beans, the squash, the pumpkins. I mean, it's not like you guys don't have the experience in it. Not like you don't have the capability or the know how to do that. It's just you got to do it with the right plants, right? And kind of like time is how much of timing comes into play with that, because you have to worry about the plants around it overtaking them before they can even crawl up the trellis. You know what I'm saying?
It's important. Like,
well, the thing with a lot of those, so they don't fit the criteria is the problem. They don't fit. Like we're growing some pumpkins and stuff to make some baby food, but they're not going to. Pumpkins aren't going to keep the lights on. You know what I mean? And they take up too much space to really be a plant that fits the system of market farming, right? So we have our permaculture food forest systems. We have our annuals. We have our supporting hedgerows. But within this whole system, we have a market system which supports our life, right? Keeps the lights on, keeps the taxes paid. Got to pay the tax man. Got to pay for the property taxes. Got to pay the rent. So the farmers market is inevitably that place. We have had jobs in the past, obviously, to get us to where we are. I've been self-employed for over a decade now. I ran a DJ company. I still run a DJ wedding service, DJing weddings. We're allowed to help out our patients as caregivers, and they're allowed to help us in return. There's many different ways of consulting that we've gotten by, and through market farming and going to farmers markets. Believe it or not, you can earn a small living going to farmers markets and selling your goods. In
Tell
Michigan,
us about it.
Well, I don't know. We started a little bit late. Maybe we can go a minute or two late, but we have in Michigan a handful of options for people. One of them being, if you do want to sell some slightly processed things like cookies, breads, you're a chef. You bake things. You have some artisan crafts that you want to take. You're
bagels. Let's just start with bagels. I make bagels every morning.
You can do bagels. Michigan has what's known as cottage law, and so some food items that would otherwise in some other districts or jurisdictions need a food license, you can actually sell these at a food stand at your house. You can sell these at a food stand at a market. There's a couple of rules for cottage food law in Michigan. One of those is that the sales have to be face-to-face between the producer and the person that's buying them. You can't have a broker. You can't have a store selling your stuff. Another rule is that there has to be some sort of a label on there that gives the ingredients of what's in it. Is there any allergen specifications, anything like that? And the list of ingredients need to be in a specific order based on the weight or the volume of the ingredients that are in there. And then another thing is, where did it come from? So your address has to be on there. You have to be very transparent to people. So these are just a few rules. You don't have to have a license. You don't have to pay any.
But none of that is out of standard practice, right? That's all pretty much standard practice.
It's a very honest standard practice. It's a very transparent standard practice. And so assuming that you do all of those things, the Michigan Department of Agricultural Rural Development won't, slap a fine on you for, selling food without a label
your farm
or whatever. Yeah, whatever they want to do. But you don't need a license to sell these things. They just have, some criteria that says, if you can sell some of these things, but the way that we're going to keep it at a smaller scale is that we're only going to allow you to sell, in this case, Michigan Cottage Food Law enacted in 2010, a little bit outdated. We're only going to allow you to sell $25,000 worth of goods. So you can sell bread, but you're only allowed to sell $25,000 worth of bread. So that's probably going to keep your scale a little bit small. There's some things you cannot sell. You can't sell pickles because you had to use an acidic solution. You had to change the pH for storage. If it is not stable at room temperature, basically it can't be sold because of risk.
What's funny is I got gifted a batch of pickles today.
Pickling is what brought me into I made like 30 jars of pickles in 2012.
What's your name for your pickles?
Eat these pickles.
I love it.
And it was supposed to a little dude, and it was supposed to have this little hip dude with crunching into a giant hog of a pickle like that, crunching into that sucker. Eat these pickles. It was gonna, it's still up there. It's don't go stealing that now. Anyways, we've got.
I feel like I should have solo layout that. Give us that logo one more time. There you go.
Just that one closed eye, it's hurting the cheek, man. And you gotta have the crunch. It's like one of those animated bubbles that says crunch, Where were we? What the fuck?
I have no idea. Something about cottage law.
Yeah, so you can't sell salsa. There's a few things you actually cannot sell in Michigan. Yeah, I just can't sell some of those things. So
some would say those are shelf stable, but I think the risk of botulism is high, so it's that.
Yes, yeah. So any of those types of food, I don't even think you can sell kimchi and things with a salt ferment. So anything fermented, you really can't sell. But the other items that do fall under cottage food law, you can sell. Now, agricultural products don't really fall under cottage food law, and therefore they don't really have that revenue cap. They don't really require you to put a label of the ingredients on it because, well, if you have a head of lettuce, it shouldn't be anything else inside that head of lettuce.
Uncut and unwashed.
It has to be uncut. Supposed to be unwashed. I don't know about the whole unwashed thing because I'm pretty sure you can wash greens. I think that the MDARD rep was trying to say uncut and she said unwashed because she didn't say uncut. She just said unwashed. So I'm not sure. I've read uncut and then MDARD rep said unwashed, but you
maybe that's like
wash greens. So I don't know. Anyways, tomatoes, peppers, greens, anything. So if it's cut at the stem, greens, lettuce, anything like that, it's all agricultural product. Once you chop lettuce, if you chop your lettuce, now it's a cottage food. So if you make a salad mix, chopped salad mix, or chop parsley for tabbouleh, I want to make some tabbouleh and sell tabbouleh. Well, that's a cottage food. You're only allowed to sell dried. If I want to sell tea and I dry it, and I chop it. Anything dried, that's
basically anything processed. Whatsoever.
Anything processed, mildly processed, is a cottage food, right? So fresh products, fresh. Now those, so I could sell apples at my road stand, no revenue cap. I could sell all that stuff, and I do not
cider.
I do apple cider would then be processed. But then again, shelf stability might not even be able to use it because it requires lemon juice. So yeah, so in order to keep it shelf stable, you got to do that whole deal. Now, I think you can do water bath. I think you can sell water bath items like water bath, pressure canned beans, pressure canned. I think you can do anything pressure canned.
I don't think you can do anything canned.
Okay, maybe I'm totally wrong about that one. So
or cut lettuce. You can't do that either.
Yeah, right. So Stangman pesto, you could do a pesto, but you would have to have some sort of shelf stability for it. So it'd have to be fresh and it would have to be used fresh.
The most common ones we see are like cookies and bread,
granola,
muffins, donuts, things that it's like baked goods.
For us, our cottage products right now is dried herbs, teas. That's pretty much all we have.
What are you growing for your teas?
A lot of herbs, man. Well, we saw a lot of the that calendula, though, the yellow flowers that were growing. But
we have a whole yard of mint. Mint is everywhere.
That's
pretty
the
much.
Base.
Same here.
I've been over Superior. I've showed up to their homestead before, and they've had what I can only describe as, I don't even know what this means, but a mint julep. I think mint julep sounds fun and sounds right.
We have like a little apothecary of in the springtime we collect the pine tips, so we have like a jar of pine tips. It's a constant supply of strawberry leaves. We collect
and honestly, it turned me on to tea, but not like your English breakfast tea, black tea. It's not that kind of tea. Not
herbal tea is totally different, especially with fresh.
Totally different, man. And that's I had a kind of refined or renewed, I guess, respect for it after I experienced that. So I appreciate that, Rosemary.
It's like the original form of alchemy. I like
man.
My favorite.
We did a lot of chamomile this year to add to ours. We added catmint. We have a spearmint. Our straight mint, strawberry leaves, same thing.
Strawberry leaves.
Chamomile, fresh chamomile, I think is so good. And then it dries and it's like a fruity pebble. Like it smells so tasty.
We planted so many different ones too. There's probably 30 different plants of chamomile around. And one of them is like a creeping version.
Yeah. You guys should try lemon basil.
Oh, we do. We have lemon basil here.
Yeah. That's my favorite.
Lavender.
We grew that last year.
Lemon basil gives me an effect that I find is uplifting, euphoric, and subtly psychedelic.
That's nice. We also have
it's lemonine terps, absolutely. Yeah.
Chocolate basil. And then we have two other types of basil. And then I just literally 3 days ago got 10 different varieties of basil seeds in the mail. So
nice.
The lemon basil, I love it fresh with hot water, and I let it sit until it cools down, and then I put it in the fridge, and then I just pour that over ice.
Cold brew.
I love walking through the yard and smelling all the different, basically the terpenes that we're used to, right? You get different pine smell. It always smells like pine here. I live in the middle of a pine forest, but every now and then you get
that's amazing
mint, and then you get lemon, and then you get just
what is one thing? Let's end on this, Rosemary's. What's one thing you guys haven't grown yet, like at all, but it's on your list to add to the garden at some point in the future?
Tried a lot of things.
I know you guys got quite the depth.
I love growing flowers. Last year we did our wedding flowers, and this year we didn't really do much. Zinnias, sunflowers, dahlias. We really didn't do any of those again. So we've got a lot of seeds that we've gotten over the last couple years of flowers that I really want to try. I wish I had all the packets. We've got a moonflower. I really want to do the moonflower. Marshmallow. What else do I have?
I feel like it's a stacked question for me. I have so many varieties I want to not grow anymore. I just want them out of there. There's I don't know. It's things that just don't fit the system. There's things that are just too big for this.
What's something you would love to add to it though? If you could just make
I think it's more or less like what I just want to get better at growing. There's things that I want to get more proficient at growing, like lettuces and onions.
Onions, for sure.
Get better at like not allowing areas to go fallow and to always have something in place, something to back up something. So, when the squash dies, I should have lettuce ready to go in the ground for the winter time. That space.
Oh, it's so hard, dude. Even, God, it doesn't matter if you got 500 square feet or 5,000 square feet or 500 acres. It is so hard to do that, man.
And adding new crops into there, I don't know, because I think that I've experimented with so many things that I'm just ready to get into dialing it in. I'm at the point where I'm wanting to, now that I've actually found a good seed company and I've seen what good seeds do compared to like what I've gotten from box stores in the past and things like that. Now it's time to like dial into these like varietals, like these Carmen peppers, for example. I don't think I have one here. Might have.
Watching M.I. Gardner.
Beautiful. The M.I. Gardner posted, those are Carmen peppers. And they're these beautiful like green and they go lipstick red. And they're really good, man. They're a sweet pepper, but they have this flavor of a spicy pepper. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
they're really good. I had one in my salad tonight, and I'm just eating them whole. And they're huge, and each plant grows a bunch of them. As far as like production goes, it's a very productive and delicious pepper. I'm liking it more than a bell, because a bell,
he has so many good variety. Like his tomato selection blows my mind every time. And for us, it's great because they're all Michigan. We know they're going to grow here. He grows them here.
Right.
Yeah, I'd love to do some more heirloom tomatoes, those like crinkly ones that are really cool looking. I just feel like we need a high tunnel for better tomato production.
I'm waiting for my greenhouse to be done, and then tomatoes will be part of it.
Is that the ultimate goal, Rosemary's? Is it to have just rows of greenhouses to be able to
more space? The high tunnel is good for tomatoes and cucumbers, especially.
So maybe in part have greenhouses, but ultimately just have a structured outdoor space.
A multi-function thing. There's a principle of permaculture that involves small and slow solutions. No, that's not it. There it is. It's the fourth principle of permaculture, which is apply self-regulation and accept feedback. And a large part of that is you limit your growth because of the consumption, because of the ethics behind the size and scale. What you can do it is a family unit, what you can do on just a couple of acres. The point's not to grow 10 acres and a bunch of greenhouses and overdo it. The idea is to sustain in closed loops while doing that. And there's a point where you can have all these systems, and if the land gets bigger, all that happens is the biodynamics of the systems grows. If we obtain another 5 acres, well, rather than adding more farmland, we would add a pond. We would add pasture land. We would bring in animals. We would bring in some other form of the ecosystem and add to the ecosystem in another way that's not just production. That is a way of health and to bring and revitalize the system. Obtaining the yield is a part of it, but that's a small part of it.
Just growing tomatoes for us, we don't need a high tunnel or anything. However, if we want to up it a little bit more, you use the high tunnel for that in the summertime, and then in the winter you put your chickens in there, so you kind of have multi steps. And
that is the eighth principle of permaculture, which is integrate, not segregate. So you're going to recognize your system relationships and those relationships between, in this case, summer, winter, and fall, and where you can utilize those different systems with different crops, so to speak, vegetables and animals, creates resilience in those systems, because you're going to have lessen pest pressure, bringing the chickens into that area. They're going to go through, they're going to clean the soil. Then you're going to have the manure factor, and they're going to bring more plants back into that area. And so
doing more with less.
Yeah, that's why we're attaching our greenhouse to our chicken run. It's that exact reason. Is in the winter, we'll open a door between. We're not growing plants, obviously, when we got 10 feet of snow. Right. Now the chickens can go in there. They can till the soil. They can
and it's insulated for them because there's 10 feet of snow.
Yeah, and there's an earth battery underneath it that's insulated 4 feet underground. So,
oh, them lucky fucking chickens. Let me tell you what, guys. Yep. Rosemary's Oasis, I really appreciate it. I feel like we have another show ahead of us to get through.
I meant to say that when we first started the show. I was going to say, all right, this is going to be a 3-part episode. There we go.
100%. Yeah, well, this is part 1, guys. I appreciate you both joining us, and let's see if we can get these next 2 parts in before that baby comes along. We're on a limited time frame here, so let's crush them out here.
We're trucking along.
Oh yeah, homestead life. I love it. Cheers, guys. You can find us every Friday night, Twitch, YouTube, X, and Spotify and beyond. We'll see you guys next week.